Hey guys, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/BS Wrestling Report. Over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Once again, audibletrials.com/BS Wrestling Report.
The BS Wrestling Report.
Oh shit, Jesse, what's going on, brother?
What's up, brother?
Not too much. Brian's on the line with me. We kind of sandbagged. You're actually recording right now as we fucking speak.
That's what's up.
Dude, so how you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm hanging out by my pool and drinking some Jack and Dr. Pepper.
Jack, is that the life? Is that the life of the retired wrestler?
That's the life of a retired wrestler, a beat up young veteran.
Well, I mean, I was just looking on your Wikipedia page. I don't know who you gave the permission to edit it, but it says on September 15th, 2014, you announced your retirement from wrestling. And I remember, I think I called you that day, and I was like, "Is this true?" And you said, "Yeah." If you don't mind me asking, Jess, what brought that on?
I mean, it's a lot of things, man. I just, one, like I've had a lot of injuries, and I'm 25 years old and feeling really beat up, and just kind of tired of getting hurt. And I actually, my actual shoot career, I got a really good opportunity to be promoted and make really good money doing what I'm doing now. And it's kind of nice to make money and not have to get beat up every night and break bones every 6 months. So,
jeez,
that's I mean, as of right now, man. I mean, like I said, I'm done wrestling, but you never know. Like, wrestling's one of those things. It's like being in the mafia, man. Once you're in forever. And I told a couple of buddies of mine, if it ever happens to where I kind of start getting that bug again to where I want to wrestle, then Ric Flair came back from a WrestleMania retirement, so
Dude,
I don't think it's that big a deal. I don't think it's that big a deal if I start wrestling again. But no, man, I just I got to the point where I remember I was telling Jeff Boom, I was like, dude, I'm 25, man. I was like, after breaking my neck, I've had 2 broken ankles, 2 knee surgeries. I was like, dude, I hurt. Like, I make noises getting into bed, bro. I'm like, I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, I'm kind of burnt out for a little bit. And, I know at 25, and that's kind of hard to imagine, but, I just got beat up so much in such a short amount of time that, I'm kind of done with it for a while, and I want to focus on work and, making good money, and that's what I'm doing now.
Making good money and living in Fort Lauderdale, because I seen Jeff was just out there. I don't know if you saw his Facebook thread with 4,000 messages in it. Have you seen that?
Yeah, man. No. Was that what was it, the picture, or what are we talking about?
For those listening, Jesse's buddy Jeff Boom at JeffBoom24, or find him on Facebook, Jeff Boom, has this thread. He did some 3-hour wrestling training on Sunday, and here we are almost a week later, and it's got 4,000 posts in it. Yes, I'll tell you gotta fucking look at it. But I'm glad, because you threw out something on the Twitter machine at Jesse Sorensen. Brian and I threw something out at BSW Report, and I don't know if I can ask this question that Jeff asked, but I think you know the one I'm talking about, Jess. Do you want to answer that?
Well, the no hate campaign would probably go all over me, but no, that was wait, is that the question we're talking about?
You with 1 tier 2.
Yeah, it was random. He's mid-sentence of a serious conversation, and I was texting our buddy Sean, and he said something that was just so gay. I go, hey, man, is that word with 1 T or 2? And just cut him off. He goes, have you been listening to shit I've been saying for the last 20 minutes? I was like, oh, no, my bad, bro. I was like, and he busts out laughing. He goes, why would you ask if that was 1 T or 2? I was like, I don't know. I was like, he just said something really stupid, so I got to get him back. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If anybody's
not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, nothing at all. I am all for it.
To each their own. Exactly.
Exactly. So, when we set this up, I remember I was driving in South Tampa, and I saw something that reminded me, so I texted you, and you said, and I quote, "You want to pipe bomb this bitch." So I'm going to throw out a name here real quick. And I want you to say whatever comes to your fucking mind. And the first name I got is Dixie Carter.
Dixie Carter. she's a smart worker. I can tell you that. No, man, me and Dixie, we starting out, we had a really good relationship. You know, like when I got signed to TNA, I remember Dixie like coming up and hugging me, and she's like, "Oh, you know, you're my Texas guy." And I remember Tony Nese was there, and he goes, "Oh shit, man!" He goes, "You think Vince does that?" And I was like, "Hell no, Vince doesn't do that." I was like, pretty sure we would have never seen him, but no, I mean, me and her and I were really cool, man. And then like, you know, after I broke my neck, like all the shit went down to where, you know, I was told like, you know, she's like, you know, you'll always have a job, you know, as long as I own this company. And she's like, don't worry about, you know, your bills and all that shit. And then, you know, we kind of had a falling out after I started getting medical bills for, you know, like being in ICU and shit like that. And it was a really big issue. And like, I got to the point where I was like, man, fuck it. I was like, I'm just, you know, I'm not an asshole, but I'm going to sue this company. Like if they're not going to pay my medical bills. But, and then I remember I went down and I talked to Bruce Pritchard, and I told him, I said the same thing. I was like, man, look, I'm not an asshole. I was like, but I got a bunch of medical bills, bro. And I was like, you know, somebody's going to have to pay for them, or, you know, I'm going to need to get back in the ring and start making some money. And they weren't going to let me back in the ring. And then he was like, well, you know, I don't know what to do about the medical bills. And so it came to the point where I was going to sue TNA, and I talked to some lawyers about it. And then, as soon as I like said something about suing, like I got a call like a couple days later and got offered another job. And, you know, me being like young and dumb, I was like, oh, cool. You know, they'll bring me back. I'll wrestle. And then I did the production thing, which, you know, was good and bad. I like the people that I worked with. I met some really cool people that like, you know, I didn't ever really get a chance to talk to and like really learn much from, like, you know, like Dave Belos and a lot of the producers and stuff. It was cool, that aspect of it. I remember I got to my first TV and they were like, they handed me a headset and they're like, all right, here you go. And I stood around for 8 months with a piece of paper in my hand and went up to like curtain guys and like, hey bro, what's up? You got a promo in like 20 minutes, just be over there. And like, that was literally like all I did. And I just hung out and I bugged the shit out of me about wanting to wrestle. And I remember at the time, everybody was like, damn bro, you look better than everybody on the roster. Why aren't you wrestling? I'm like, I don't know. They won't put me on. I'm twice as big as you know, the X Division guys, but for some reason I'm not out there. But you know, and then like Dixie and I had you know, I originally when I got fired the second time, because I'd been released like right after I broke my neck, but the second time I got fired, you know, Bob Ryder, the travel agent, called me and fired me, and I remember I was so mad because I was like, bro, I was like, what was this shit about like Dixie saying I would always have a job? And he was like, well, you know, look, I'm just a messenger, man. He was like, you know, I didn't do this. And I sat home and I remember Dixie called me and she was like, hey, did I catch you at a bad time? And I go, no, I ain't doing shit. I don't have a job. And then,
I got time.
And like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I ain't doing nothing. And then, she was like, you know, I'm sorry, you know, I didn't get a chance to call you. And we talked for a little bit and I was like, man, I just think it's bullshit. I was like, you know, he told me I'd always have a job. I was like, and now I'm sitting at home, like, pretty much with my thumb up my ass. I was like, I'm not wrestling. And, like, the only thing I'd ever done before that was, like, you know, all I'd ever done was bail hay. I grew up on a ranch, and I was a pro wrestler. That's all I knew. Yeah. And I was like, so I don't know what I'm going to do now. I was like, I'm just sitting at home recovering from a broken neck and not doing anything. And then I remember she was like, you know, this conversation did not go the way I thought it was. And I was like, well, how do you want it to go? I just got fired. And
what the fuck do you want from me?
I remember she was like, you know, if things work out in the future to where you can wrestle here, she was like, you know, we'd love to have you back. And I was like, I've been sitting around asking you to wrestle for 8 months. Like, you know, I think, you know, if you're going to put me on TV, you would have done it by now. And I kept getting like BS, like, oh, you know, we're trying to think of a good storyline. And I remember at the time I was like, I broke my fucking neck and now I'm back. Like that's kind of a good storyline. But, no, man, we kind of had some like heated conversations, and then, I mean, we've actually got to the point now to where we're cool. Like her and I actually, you know, her and I talked about a week ago, through text, and like, I mean, you know, there's a lot of shit that went down, but I think like with maturity, like I kind of realized like, you know, it's like Stone Cold said, you can't trust anybody, and that's just how it is. You can't trust anybody. You can't take anybody's word for anything anymore. If somebody tells you, like, oh, they're going to do something, like 9 times out of 10, that's probably not going to happen. And, I mean, I was just, you know, I was 21 when I got signed to TNA. So, like, when I left, I was, like, 23. So it's like I was still, like, young and dumb, and I just believed anything anybody told me. And that was the case. But, I mean, as far as Dixie goes, I mean, TNA's still on TV, so I think they're still on TV there. I mean, they're still doing their thing. So I mean, obviously she's running the company very well and as good as she can, as much as she knows. And I mean, her and I, you know, what's in the past is in the past. I mean, if I got the right opportunity to go back there, I'm sure I would. You know, as long as the money was right. And
yeah. Now, did you have fun doing any of the?
As long as nobody's doing cannonballs in my head or anything.
Yeah. Now, did you enjoy doing any of the production work at that time, or was that anything that you saw somewhat of a future involved in?
No, I mean, and that was it was good and bad. Like, my goal was to wrestle, and that's what I thought. Like, when they originally rehired me, they gave me this crap that I was going to be the Goodwill ambassador, and I was going to go around and I was going to do like charity stuff, and they were going to film it, and I was going to be like the John Cena, like everybody's going to see me doing all the cool stuff, and like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do charity stuff, and I wanted to like go around and tell my story, and then like nothing ever came of it. And like I said, my first TV, I got there, and they were like, "Oh, go grab a headset and figure out what you're doing." And so I was with Dave Belos and a couple of the guys that worked with him, and I literally like they would make me a copy of their paper of the rundown, and if anytime they didn't have anything to do, they'd go, "Hey, Jess, go tell Devon he's got a promo in 20 minutes." And that's literally like all I did. And I mean, it was cool because I got to see like how hard the production guys actually do work and how much actually goes in the behind the scenes that, you know, most guys you don't realize, especially like when you're running around as a wrestler, you don't realize like how hard those guys are actually busting their ass. And when they're bugging you to come do a promo, like they're kind of strapped for time and they really want to make the product as best as they can. But like I said, it was good and bad. Like, I was bored because I wanted to wrestle, and, you know, I was 23 years old and, you know, jacked up and full of piss and vinegar, and that's all I wanted to do. But, like, I mean, I did learn a lot, and it was cool. And I remember I'd talked to Dixie, like, after I got fired, and she was like, well, you know, she was like, I know you're kind of confused about what you want to do. She was like, you know, maybe wrestling's not your thing. She was like, maybe you could get a job, like, in production. And I was like, I was a production guy for 6 months at a wrestling show. Like, that ain't gonna get me shit. Like, and I'm so mad. I'm like, what qualifications is that? I was like, I could go tell them I was a production guy at TNA, and they'd go, well, what's TNA? I was like, I was so mad. I was like, there's no way I'd ever get a job in production, and like that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then like, you know, I did the Ring of Honor thing, and then like that was the first time I had talked to Dixie since like her and I had kind of had a bad conversation. Or actually, I think I talked to her. I made the hashtag Ask Dixie shirt, which like a lot of people thought it was funny, and some people thought it was shitty, and I think like the majority thought it was funny, so I went with funny. But I remember she had texted me. She had texted me, and she was like, "Are you making Dixie shirts?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I don't know what that is," you know. but I mean, we sold them, so I thought it was pretty funny and it was catchy. But no. I remember I went and I worked for Ring of Honor, and she texted me, and she's like, "Oh, you're wrestling again." And then, you know, she was like, "You should come down to a TV and let's talk." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I remember I did an indie show, and then I think it was one of their weekend tapings. I went up to TNA, and I got up there, and I was like walking around saying hi to everybody. And then I remember Jolene, who like makes everybody's gear up there. She's like, "Oh, what are you doing up here?" And everybody's all surprised to see me. I was like, "Well, I don't know." Dixie, you know, invited me, so, you know, let's talk. And she was on like vacation somewhere. And so I didn't get to see her, and I was like, oh, well, it kind of sucks, you know. But I mean, it was good. The production thing was good, you know. Dixie and I, we don't, as far as I know, like I don't think we have any problems. I would go work there again, you know. There would be things that I'd want to discuss that would be completely different, and I don't think I'd fall for some of the stuff that I did before. But yeah, I'm a little bit older and a little bit smarter now.
Fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is, you know. But that's how it is with anything. You know, you're young and dumb and you fall for anything.
There you go. Yeah, you just want to get out and work and be in front of the camera and in front of people.
That was it, man. I just wanted to wrestle. And, like, I mean, that's still, like, you know, if I wasn't doing what I was doing now, like, I'd still be doing indies, and I'd just want to wrestle. I never really cared. Like, money wasn't the issue for me. I didn't come from money, so that was never the problem. I just wanted, when somebody tells me something, I want to believe that they're loyal, and I want to believe that they're telling me the truth, you know?
Yeah. That's sometimes hard to do.
So
right?
that's unfortunately, that's not how the wrestling business is.
Yeah, it's not how a lot of business is, but yeah, the wrestling business for one is not proven themselves to be a follow-through type of business.
Yeah, no. Promises are short-lived.
There you go. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, there
Absolutely.
You go.
So now that we basically got Dixie's life story, and to answer your question, I don't know if TNA's on TV. Brian, do you watch it?
I haven't tuned in lately, but I've been pretty freaking busy lately. I've actually.
I heard. Actually, one of my there's a guy who wrestles down here, Alex Chamberlain. He was telling me they might have like some kind of new TV deal like going on. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch it, so
I honestly hope
it's
they
weird.
do.
Every time I get hurt, I don't know why, I just quit watching wrestling. I go on like 6-month hiatuses every year, and I just quit watching wrestling. And all my buddies start talking about it. I'm like, man, I haven't watched it in 6 months. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they do. I hope, because I think there's something there eventually for there to be some, prove some talent. There's got to be other places to go for these guys to go wrestle and, show off what they can do. And,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they got something going on. I mean, here's the thing, like with TNA, they're not. I know everybody always talks about, TNA's going broke, and it's like TNA's not going to run out of money. Unless it just gets cut off, like Panda Energy's not going to run out of money, and if it does, the least of our worries is going to be wrestling.
Yeah, you got that going for you because they're backed by that. It's a pretty big company there that is the backbone.
Exactly, it's like that's the least of their worries is running out of money.
I think that you are right because I believe Panda Energy's revenue last year was $5 billion, so I think they're okay.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I remember people always saying, like, oh, TNA's going, when we were there, and they were like, oh, TNA's going broke. Okay, TNA might have my check that's 2 months late, but they ain't going broke. Like, they were definitely never in trouble with money. Panda Energy's worth so much money, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's kind of like the days of WCW, and people say, WCW's going broke. It's like, listen, they got Turner money. Like, they're okay.
No, I'm pretty sure Ted Turner's okay.
To this day, I'm sure he's still sitting pretty.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Now
he can lose 2 more.
What's that?
So he could lose 2 more WCWs and be fine.
I think you're right. Now, I know you're big friends with Doc, Luke Gallows. Have you ever gotten the call from Japan, or has Luke ever put a word in for you over there? Because, dude, I don't know if you paid attention. I know you said you're not really watching, but, TNA or anything right now. Then again, nobody is. Any New Japan stuff on YouTube and whatnot, because that shit's fucking awesome.
Dude, that shit, actually, like, that's kind of funny that, like, you say that, because the Bullet Club, I could screenshot it for you later. The Bullet Club's actually on my... And that's the next end. No, man, like, I do watch a lot of that stuff, and the Bullet Club and all that, that's blowing up. And it's actually pretty badass, but, I've never got a call to do that. I've talked to Doc, I went to his wedding, down in Clearwater when he got married a few months ago, and that was cool. But I haven't talked to him a whole lot since. Apparently, Carl told me that I'm the injured member of the Bullet Club. So,
well, that's a free T-shirt right there. Then
right?
I just had to pay $30 on mine.
Oh, you got hosed. Somebody worked you. No, I remember I was texting Carl, and I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm kind of on the IR, but really want to be in the Bullet Club." He's like, all right, you can be the injured member. So.
Well, let's see. The Hart Foundation always had, Brett was always hurt carrying around a crutch. DX
yep.
carrying out a crutch. So we can kind of incorporate you with the T-shirt and little Bullet Club footballs.
Exactly. I mean, we could do that. And we get little Bullet Club spinners from a wheelchair because I'm feeling about that old.
But Doc's work over there has been pretty fucking awesome. And the next name I want to bring up to you is another guy that jumped over to Japan, and he's actually in the Bullet Club. Most people know his phrase, "Can you hear me now, Slapnuts?" I want to throw out the name Jeff Jarrett.
Man, Jeff was always cool to me. I remember I had actually met Jeff, what year was it? Hang on, I do feel. It was 2010. I did the gut check tryout in Saginaw, Michigan, and it was in October 2010. And in September, I'd had my second knee surgery. I blew my ACL off, and in front of a shitty indie show in front of 10 people in Texas. And I remember, I met Jeff, and, I just, got my brace to where it was unlocked. And I had this big-ass brace that was up to my nuts. And I remember I met Jeff, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I was like, "Look, man," I already paid for the ticket, and I paid for the, the tryout. I want to try out. And I remember, like, he was really cool then. I remember everybody, like, called me, like, the Randy Orton-looking kid. And, like, Jeff was real cool then. And then, like, when I got to TNA, he remembered me, and he was always really nice to me. Like, between him and Karen, I remember, like, this kid Cash, you know, he just used to beat the shit out of me. And, like, Karen Jarrett would always, like, come up to me, and she's like, oh, my God, you poor baby. And Jeff's like, stop babying him. But, like, they were always so cool to me. And, like, you know, I don't know what's going on with his deal now. Like, I talked to him, you know, a month ago about that, and Kurt had actually talked to Karen and Jeff about me going and working for them. So, I mean, you never know. I mean, down the line, that might be something that's going on. But Jeff was always cool as hell to me, man. He was always, you know, he would watch my matches and explain, you know, what I did right and wrong, and he was always there for me. And like I said, Karen was always there freaking out every time I got the hell beat out of me, but she was kind of like the mom to me. So, yeah, they're good people.
Yeah, that's it. No, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
What's the status on it? I mean, man, I feel like I'm so out of the loop. I don't check dirt sheets. I don't watch any TV. But what's going on with their group?
Last I read on the dirt sheet. Go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say I haven't heard much either. It just kind of comes and goes. You hear a little bit, it pops up, and you get something, and then it just kind of fades away. You hear things about being a reality show.
Yeah, I mean that's what's weird is like, you know, I remember when they were like him and Karen were doing the videos. I'd watch that and I was like, oh, I think this is going to be badass, and then it just disappeared and you didn't hear a thing about it. And then it seems like it just comes and goes.
I think Jarrett will. I think he'll get it together. I actually emailed him about 2 weeks ago about coming on, and he said, you know what, I'm a little busy. Give me like 4 to 6 weeks. We can arrange a date. So he's a smart man. I mean, you've interacted with him. We've seen him on TV for years, so he's got to be doing something right. So I think sooner than later we'll have something pulled together, and I really hope, because, you know, there's some good talent he had lined up. You know, Carlito, Shelton Benjamin, Angle, you know, even possibly you. As long as nobody ever calls you Jesse the Jet, I think we'd be okay with it.
Oh my God, bro! When that shit came about, I remember Christy Hemme came up to me and she goes, "Hey," she's like, "So you're cool with like your little like name they gave you?" And I go, "Whoa, wait, what are you talking about?" She's like, "You're Jesse the Jet, right?" And I go, "Well, who the hell decided that shit?" And she was like, "And are we allowed to cuss on this?" I don't know.
Oh yeah. Open format.
Go ahead.
Okay. That's just a Texas thing, man. But no, I remember I was like, whoa, I go, no, I go, do not announce me as Jesse the Jet. I was like, that is retarded. I was like, I would never want to come out to that. And so I remember they put it on a YouTube video, and I was like, oh, this is so stupid. This looks so bad. So, but I mean, that's about how my gimmick came along. It took about 30 seconds to decide what it was going to be, too. So
Well,
I remember that was decided really quick.
I'm no offense, glad. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. I'm glad you have it, because when I think of the word the Jet, I think of the Sandlot and Benny the Jet Rodriguez. And with your broken neck, you know, 18 busted ankles, 19 missing ACLs, I don't see you stealing home anytime soon. No offense.
I don't know, man. My walker, it's got some new tennis balls on it. I think it can get up and go. It might have to dust me off, but.
I wanted to jump back out to one of the Twitter questions, like I put it out there at BSW Report, and you put it out at Jesse Sorensen. And this question I thought was pretty fucking funny. If this guy ever listens, he's gonna want to punch me in the face. At Stone_Lefty. He wants to know, how does a guy with no money start wrestling in Washington, D.C., of all places? And go.
In Washington, D.C. Well, first thing you got to do is get out of Washington, D.C. A guy with no money. Well, he's probably going to have to invest in a trampoline, folding chairs. I mean, that's what I did, man. I was broke as hell, and I jumped out of trees and shit. No, honestly, man, if he's gonna make her, he really wants to take a shot. He's gonna have to do what I and everybody else did. You're gonna have to pack your shit up, and you're gonna have to go somewhere where you can be successful. You know, my thing was I saw 3D Academy, and you know, I knew that that's where I could be successful. And within a week, I packed all my stuff and I drove by myself to, you know, from Texas to Florida, and got a place. And I went to school 5 days a week wrestling for 3D Academy until something came of it. And I mean, honestly, that's what you have to do. I get that all the time, man. People's like, oh, man, I'd love to be a wrestler, and, I'd love to do this and that. And I'm like, well, how much are you actually willing to do for it? I remember when I was wrestling on TV, I would, like, one thing that always, like, people would ask me, they were like, oh, what do I got to do to make it at TNA? And I'm like, I don't know, like, what are you doing now? And, like, so many people, I felt like we're always happy being indie stars and, not really, like, taking that extra initiative to, like, push forward and really try to make it. And, I mean, that's the biggest problem is there's so many people out there now that they're happy where they're at and they don't try to make it, but they want to ask all these people who have made it, like, hey, how do I make it? Because they're looking for a quick fix. They want you to tell them what you want to, what they want to hear. They don't want you to tell the truth, where it's like, okay, well, you got to bust your ass and you got to sacrifice, time away from your family and, your girlfriends and all that stuff. But,
yeah.
Washington, D.C., I don't know anybody that's running the school out in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm sure you get that a lot, and I hear people just in general in life talk about that. They want to hear the quick answer, like all you got to do is blink your eyes 13 times and say, "Mother, may I please be successful," and it'll be done.
Man, yeah, that's the thing, dude. Like I've had so many people, and like here's what I mean. It's funny because like the minute you're on TV, people like automatically like will come up and be like, "Oh, bro, what do I got to do?" Or, "Hey, can you?" I had so many people who would never have said shit to me before, but the minute I was at TNA, were like, "Hey, can you talk to Al for me? You can do this and that." And it's like, no, I'm like, no, you need to bust your ass and make it. Like, stop, trying to like be the main event of these indie shows. Like, you need to think bigger than that. And I think that's what, like, the guys who have all made it, like, that's what separates us from certain guys is because, like, we sit around in the back of these indie shows and we go, man, this isn't enough. This isn't, I mean, I always did that. I would look around. It could be a great show. And I'd be like, no, this isn't enough for me. I want to do more.
Yeah. I mean, similar stories.
Yeah,
we run into similar stories. I mean, we just like to talk about wrestling, and we were like, we just started doing this podcast thing, and Steve and I would get on here and a couple of our friends, and we'd just talk wrestling, and then it turned into like, let's see if we can get an interview, and then it just like, and now we get, and we reaching out and finding people through people and the tree of people, and things are happening, and we get interviews, and life's good. But then we get these guys that'll pop up on Twitter, and they'll go, dude, how did you talk to Diamond Dallas Page? How did you talk to, whatever? And you're going, can you give me their number? No. Like, no. Like, exactly. we found emails, and we asked people, and
so funny, man. Like, people were like, I remember, like, when I originally, I came down to Florida, I started wrestling indies first, and, like, I remember I was doing indies, like, around, like, Tampa area, and people, like, would not give me the time of day. I was just some good-looking kid who, like, wrestled, and I remember, like, if I threw a good drop kick, people were pissed off about it. The minute I get signed, everybody's like, hey, bro, like, and trying to be cool. And, I mean, that's how it is. But,
just
like,
swinging on your nuts.
I don't know. You're, like, they're on your nuts. But you're like, I mean, with me, like, I try to be humble. And I'm like, look, man, I was like, don't come to me and ask how. Like, you got to kind of think to yourself, like, what are you going to do to, like, make it, nobody told me to pack my shit and go to Florida. I made that decision on my own,
Yeah, I mean, you just got to get out there and do it. You want to be a wrestler, go be a wrestler. You want to be a professional mover, like go buy a truck and start lifting up couches. I don't know, like whatever the fuck you want to do, you just got to go say, well, fuck it, that's what I'm doing. And
yeah, man, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like there's so many people that don't give 100% in this stuff. And like I said, they want it, when they ask somebody for advice, they want you to tell them what they want to hear, not what the truth is. Yeah, and they don't like it when you tell them the truth. And, the bottom line is, whether you're, cleaning bathrooms or you want to be a professional wrestler, like if you're not going to give it 100%, well, you're not going to succeed. You're going to stay where you're at.
Exactly. You got to get up, get down, grind, get your grind, nose of the grind, and get out there and work. And you want to be a wrestler, get in the ring. You find a ring and get in it.
I mean, I don't know if I'd tell everybody to be a wrestler. I wouldn't say that's the smartest decision you ever made, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good time for a little bit.
Good time, if you
Surgeries are expensive. Bones are hard to fix, but
to me, it's crazy. I mean, we'll take, just kind of roll with this conversation here. The way that the business, I understand it started out and everybody was independent contractors. We're talking back territory days, right? 60s, 70s, all that stuff coming around, bouncing through all the territories, and it was, this guy's going to wrestle here and he's going to move to the bigger territory. You start at the small ones and you move up and you move up, and eventually your goal is to get to the New York territory. And I understood then that life was that, it was that kind of that carny style life, and you just bounced around and you worked where you worked and you did what you did and slept in cars. But as the business has evolved and grown, and companies like WWE and TNA, with the money, they still treat the stars like they're the independent contractor, carnival style guy. But but you're signed to a contract and you can't go wrestle anywhere else.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what's funny is like I remember like when I was doing TNA, I wanted to do indie shows, and you had to run it through the office. Like I remember like they gave like an independent promotion one time like a bullshit price. Like I was like, all right, I would never charge that much for me. Like I at this point I'm not worth that. But like, and then they like take whatever their percentage of is it, and it's like, oh man, it's really not even worth doing that. You're back to square one making $20 at that point. But no, man, it is true. Like like there was a lot of like I still if I travel and I wrestle. It should feel different. Like if you're in TNA or WWE, I never wrestled for WWE, so I can't. I have plenty of friends that wrestle there, but I can't tell you personally how it is.
Yeah.
But I know, like wrestling for TNA, I would wrestle the show, the live events, which are pretty much like a decent, draw indie show, and you'd go to the hotel and whatever, and like then you do an indie show, and it's the exact same. You don't feel any different, and like you're right, like you're a contract wrestler, and like back in the day, like when it was WWE and WCW and ECW, like I'm sure if you wrestled for WCW or WWF, you felt like you were hot shit, like the second biggest company. But I mean, it's definitely changed.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that they keep it all independent. So like all your like travel is all on you. The travel's on the guys. No health insurance offered. Like there's nothing like put together for these guys. Like it's just crazy to me. I thought that was nuts. It's like you work for the WWE, you work for this, but you get nothing. Like you pay for your own rental car and get to the next TV taping, but don't go work anywhere else and make $1 without us help. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna get ours too. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean that's how it is.
It's just a weird idea.
You don't expect it to be that way, but that's how it is. And I mean, but like again, like if you love something enough, you do that.
Yeah, like I heard an interview with Chris Jericho, and he was talking about when he was the. I guess he travels pretty cheap, and keeps his budget as low as possible when he's on the road. And he was the champion. He was just crowned the champion the night before, and he flew in somewhere, and he got a rental car. And he slept in the rental car because he didn't want to get a hotel room. When he brushed his teeth with a water bottle, like in the rental car, and slept in the parking lot at the airport.
We used to do that. I know, like me and actually Zima and like Rob Terry, we used to like get like the Super 8 motels, like the shittiest like murder motels, like there was you could possibly get, and like it cost us $30, and we put like 4 or 5 people in those things.
Yeah,
it's like I mean, and then you have the guys who they'll get the $120 hotel rooms, and you're like, dude, for what? Like half the time we're out shit faced and not getting there until 4 o'clock in the morning anyway. So what's it matter? Like,
yeah.
I can stagger into a nice room just as can as I can a shitty one. So.
And then you don't feel as bad when you leave the shitty one looking shitty. You just walk out and you go, fuck it.
A floor is a floor, no matter which one you're hitting. Like.
Yeah, it's just crazy, to think about, because people get that perception of a champion, these champions, or the rock star lifestyle, if you will, that gets put on, and then it's kind of reveal the man behind the curtain. It's another world back there sometimes.
No, I mean, I remember that. Like, I kind of got a taste of that before I was even in the business. I worked with I met Paul London before, and like Paul was doing his thing. He was doing really well with WWE, and I was like, you got to be banking, bro. And he was like, not really. And I was like, how the hell are you not making a bunch of money? Remember, he was like tag champ and everything, and I was like, dude, you got to be killing it. And he's like, bro, you don't realize. He's like, I'm wrestling like 300 nights a year. He's like, I pay for a rent-a-car every day. I pay for a hotel. I pay for food, to eat 3-4 times a day. I pay for drinks. He was like, you don't make that much money. And then like, until I got on the road, I went, oh shit, you don't make that much money. Like, there's the guys that are banking, and you're like, okay, that dude's doing well, and like he's got his hotel and his car's taken care of.
Yeah, you see the.
But how much it does cost you don't realize how much it does cost to live on the road, like
Dude, I traveled for like 4.5 years straight. Like I was gone like 25, 26 days a month every month. And dude, that shit fucking adds up. You can eat as cheap as possible, you can stay as cheap as possible, but no matter what, if you're out there, 20 days a month, that shit's gonna add the fuck up, and you got those expenses you gotta pay, and you still got your bills at home that you have to deal with as well. So I feel you're fucking.
Bro, that's how like when I was doing TNA, like, I remember I asked like, cause I wasn't doing a lot. I was doing the TV, and I remember I asked Bob Ryder. I was like, dude, I was like, can you throw me on like a couple house show loops here and there or something? I want to get better. And then next thing you know, I was doing like 2 or 3 house shows, a weekend. And I was like, well, that's pretty fucking cool. And then I started spending money, but you don't realize that like I had a really nice place down in Clearwater Beach, and I was paying like a bunch of money for this place. And I'm like 1 time a week, and I'm paying to live here.
Were you living where Garrett is?
I was living down close to Garrett, and I was working out down to that gym down there. But I remember like, I was paying like $1,000 a month, and
you're there 4 times a month.
That's a lot of money for 4 days out of the month. Like, you're like, well, shit, I could have lived in a hotel for this, but
yeah.
No, man, it does get expensive, and like that's why I'm kind of happy where I am now, because like with my job, I drive every day. I'm out like every day driving around, and I'm buying stuff. But at the end of the month, I have an expense report where I get all that money back, and I'm like, shit, if you got this back with wrestling, this would be awesome.
Yeah, but, maybe I wouldn't be retired.
That's not how it works. You eat it all, and I know like one of the problems with us, like with TNA, was we always had late paychecks. And so that was the hardest part, was when you made good money and you didn't get the money in time. So you're like eating that cost like every month.
Yeah, that shit's got to get rough.
I can remember throwing super kicks. That's one of my buddies. He helped like ring crew with TNA. Like I remember one time I had like a check that was like 2 months late, and I would go check my mail every day, and every day I'd go, fuck. And it got to the point where like I was like running and like drop kicking my mailbox and like super kicking my mailbox because I was so mad. And like, I don't know how it is. Hopefully they got it cleared up. But like when I was there, I remember there was times like, people like, you'd be like, hey bro, you got an interview in 20 minutes. They're like, well, I'm going to call it. If I ain't going to check my mailbox, I ain't doing shit. And I'm like, all right. And like, I remember like guys telling me that. I'm like, you really want me to tell them that? They're like, yep, tell them I'm not going. I was like, all right. And I'd go back to the production guys. They're like, what do you say? I was like, I said, fuck you. And they're like, really? I'm like, bro, what do you want me to do? He ain't getting paid. And, but yeah, it was bad. Like, I remember like I was talking, I think I was telling Dixie this one time. I was like, I've become such good friends with the like accountant of the company that we're friends on Facebook, and she like likes my posts and pictures. So it's Joni, like the account for TNA, she's cool as hell. We're still friends on Facebook, but yeah, man, that's the only thing that's rough is like, I'm sure WWE's a little bit better. I remember like I was talking to Heath Slater, and he's like, man, you do Raw. He's like, you got your check like that week. But no, man, that's the only thing that sucks is like when you're eating all these costs and you're making good money and you're like, cool, I get to save some money, and that check don't come for a couple months. You're like, well, there goes that money.
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
That's one thing I've always been anal about. My dad put that in my head is like, if you're good at something, never do it for free, and always make sure you get fucking paid. Now, I'm kind of glad you brought up the super kick, because while you're talking, our buddy Jeff and I have been talking shit, and you've been tagged in a lot of these tweets. So I kind of put you on the spot, Jesse, and I said that Jeff would job for you, and he said that you hit your head too many times that you'd never job for him. What do you think would happen in the match between you and Jeff?
Whoa, wait a minute. Jeff said I would job for him?
Oh, yeah, after I told him that Jeff would job for you.
Okay, Jeff would job for me. I was like, well, wait a minute. I was like, you tell that little pussy that I would never job.
I'm going to tweet him.
Yeah, no. And you tell him it's with one T. No.
He's ask you, by the way.
Is it too? Well, there we go. No, if me and Jeff Boom wrestled, well, it'd be fine if I didn't have to use a super kick. That was one thing that like I remember I got real stiff with, because I was wrestling. I don't know if you heard this independent wrestler Nick Fame. But we were working one time, and I did a go behind like on a slip slam, and he goes, shove me into the ropes and give me a super kick. And I go, I've never thrown a super kick. He goes, just do it. And I go, oh, okay. And I super kicked him and just dropped him, and he didn't say shit. And I was like looking, I was like, bro, are you okay? And he goes, fuck, that hurt. And so I was like, and I go, oh shit, I'm pretty good at that. So I remember I just started doing the super kick, but like I never learned how to properly do it to pull it. And so, like, when I go, it just kind of goes, and if you don't put your hands up, I remember I'd work, like, independent with guys, and I'd be like, hey, man, just make sure you put your hand up. And they're like, okay, cool, got it. And, like, we'd go over the match again. I'd be like, make sure you just, maybe turn your head, too. And they're like, all right, cool. And I remember I was working with this dude in Denver, and he goes, I feel really fucking educated on this super kick, like, it's going to be bad. And then, like, I went to throw it, and he's like, bro, I am so glad that I put my hand up and turned my face away. And it's just,
Jesse
if
out
Jeff
there.
Boom caught that super kick, it would be bad. I know he's rocking some scars on his face now. I'm sure he'll be bad about that. But I know he's been rocking makeup, but he's kind of switched over to some makeup because somebody beat him up.
Yeah. Him and Mitch unfortunately dropped the tag titles as soon as Mitch turned 21 and couldn't hold his liquor down. I don't think he's happy. He couldn't. I don't think. I told him you called him a pussy. He said, "What did you call me?" And I just told him I was the middleman. So you brought up someone that's pretty interesting to me, the one-man band, Heath Slater. How did you two get acquainted? And no, I'm not going to do that thing and say, give me his phone number because that's a dick move to do. But how did you end up hooking up with Heath?
Actually, I met Heath through, I don't know if you remember Dakota Darso, who's Barry Darso's son.
Yep.
We were training at Knobs and Hogan's for a while, and I hung out with Dakota all the time or whatever, and Heath and him were best friends because they were both in FCW together, and they lived next door to each other down in Clearwater. And Heath and I just, met and hit it off and became good friends, and it was probably 3-4 nights a week. Me, Heath, and Dakota were sitting by bonfire drinking beer, getting shit-faced every night. So, we all just had a good time. We all lived within blocks away from each other and hung out. So, me and him got real close, just by hanging out, drinking beer, which is pretty much how every wrestler gets close. But
yeah, I think you, myself, Wes, and Garrett have had a few conversations and some stories over beers. I just sit back and kind of, I guess, quote unquote, the young guy in the room, just sit back, shut the fuck up, and listen. And the stories you guys would tell. One thing I do got to ask you though: have you ever done a Mr. Perfect shot?
A Mr. Perfect shot? No, what's a Mr. Perfect shot?
Oh boy, Wes educated Brian and I. Wes, so before your last event back here in Tampa, I said, Jesse, you came on the show, I'll buy you a beer. So Wes came on, and I said, I'll buy you a beer as well. He's like, I'll take a Mr. Perfect shot. I'm like, what the fuck is that? He said, you take a double shot of Jack, gargle it for 10 seconds, and swallow it.
Oh, I could do that easy.
Jesus.
I just drank a big ass glass of it.
Oh, I could not.
Dude, me and you hang out with me and Wes, and you'll get plenty of stories.
Oh, dude.
And me and that kid, he's on one of the top. It's funny. They always tell you, they're wrestling, you're not going to make a lot of friends, you're going to make a lot of acquaintances. But I love that bastard. I would fight with him. I have fought with him in bars, and it's just a genuinely good dude. I've seen that dude get his tooth knocked out, spit it out, put it in a napkin, and keep fighting. He's a good dude.
Oh yeah, that's intense.
We had a great time with Wes on, and I actually just talked to his dad.
I bet you did. I'm sure, pretty sure the whole neighborhood knows you had a great time.
I would love to have him back on again. So we're getting close to the time where we gotta take this home. Before we do, I want to say that anytime you got something on your mind that you just want to bitch about, talk wrestling, whenever, you have an absolute open forum, and you can bring anybody you want to bring with you. I know we tried to get Paul London on here with you, but he's overseas right now, so we couldn't make it work. But anytime you want to come on, Jesse, you are more than welcome.
No, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I talked to Paul about that, and he was like, look, man, he's like, I can do Skype. So, we could definitely set that up. Paul's a good dude.
Sure.
There's plenty of contacts we could set up. I think the show, it's growing. I heard y'all show with Eric Bischoff, and I kind of went back on that show, and I felt like a little kid again because I grew up watching the NWO, and you're asking the questions about the NWO and all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm kind of marking out over here, even though I have a good relationship with Eric, and he was always good to me. I heard y'all's interview with him. I was like, dude, these guys are legit, and you hear the BS Wrestling Report, and you're like, even Eric said, you're like, what is this shit gonna be? But no, y'all's show is legit, and it's cool, man. I love doing y'all's show, and
yeah, it's
I know there's gonna be plenty of people that want to jump on board here. There's been already a lot of good names.
Yeah, I think it's we just
who knows, man. Next time we're talking, like I said, apparently I agreed to wrestle the other night, which I will tell Ronin Wrestling that I am not going to be there. Apparently you don't take shots of 20-year-old bourbon and you're supposed to sip it. So,
yeah, Yeah,
I apparently agreed. They had asked me. They're like, yeah, we got a show in December. Would you want to wrestle Carlito? I said, hell yeah, I can wrestle. And then I remember I'm like looking, and my buddy Alex Chamberlain, he's like, dude, that's so awesome. Your ankle's going to be ready to wrestle by December. And I go, whoa. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, you said you'd wrestle last night. I go, whoa. You better come back. I get in the ring.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But who knows, man? Maybe next time we're doing a show, it'll be after another wrestling match with me. I don't know.
Dude, anytime, Justin. You got a show down here in Tampa. Excuse me. I'll come out. Hang out, grab some beers, and support you anytime. You make it up to Detroit, have a show. I know Brian will be up there to support you.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, man. You get back into watching the wrestling. You want to get on, and we can just sit there and talk about tear apart a pay-per-view. We get Mikey Whipwreck on here and get you on here too, and we'll just tear apart pay-per-views or special events or whatever they're calling them these days, and tear apart the business that is wrestling and how we would fix it. We play fantasy booker for about an hour and a half, and
no, I swear everybody does that. Everybody's well, this is what I would do, and we're all guilty of it, but we all got good ideas. Who knows?
Yeah, just sitting there having fun,
Man, yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I don't have people to shoot the shit with wrestling with, so it's cool.
That's it, man. Yeah, so, well, we appreciate you coming on and having a blast. So if you enjoyed the Eric Bischoff interview, you'll enjoy it because we got a part 2 coming up here in a couple weeks. So we actually got Eric
I'll check it out.
coming back on and hanging out with us, so that'll be fun. Yeah, so that's that. Where can I guess what was your give everybody your Twitter handle there? Get everybody stay in touch with you there.
Yeah, my Twitter's at Jesse Sorensen. It's Jesse with a Y, JESSYSORENSEN. And I'm still, I don't even know what I'm at on Instagram now, but I know we were talking about this. We're trying to build up that Instagram page.
There you go.
But it's at Jesse Sorensen. So
at
check
Jesse
me out
Sorensen, get on Instagram, follow him. Cool guy. You sit there and shoot the shit, talk about wrestling, and that's that. Steve, you got anything to fill us in with? Anything coming up? What you got going on?
Oh shit! You caught me off guard. I was in mid sip of a beer. I know next week we got Justin LaBar. I actually talked to Ernest the Cat Miller. He's going to be coming on, so I'm real excited for that. But other than that, dude, Jesse, I just want to, you and I.
Ernest the Cat. That's cool. That's a little old school.
Dude, I can't wait to fucking talk to that
Bro, I almost went as Disco Inferno for Halloween, but I didn't think anybody knew who the hell I was.
What? Dude, why didn't you?
You could either...
We'll see what had happened was.
What had happened
what had happened was, I actually, Tyson Tomko actually lives down the street from me. I hang out with him a lot. And we're talking the other night, and we're getting ready to go out for Halloween. I was like, bro, what are we going to be, dude? And he was like, fuck it, let's just be wrestlers. And I was like, all right, I was like, I'll go as myself. You go as yourself. He goes, you could go as Jesse Sorensen, and I could go as Tyson Tomko, and nobody would know who the fuck we were. And I go, yeah. I go, very good point. And so we're sitting there. I'm like, all right. Ric Flair's like, no, they never guess it. And I'm like, who the fuck can we go as? I go, boom. You're Alex Wright. I'm Disco Inferno. And he was like, oh, yeah, no. Yeah. So, but Tomko, if you're friends with him on Facebook, he went as Macho Man.
Oh, nice.
And so I almost went Disco Inferno. But,
you could have been Disco Inferno or Disco Stu from The Simpsons. Either way, I think you'd had a win-win. It was a twofer. It was a twofer costume.
Exactly.
I think that would have been great if you were Disco Inferno. That guy popped up on Twitter, and he's like all over the place now. Him and Russo together are like fucking thick as thieves. Dude, I'm gonna say this. Go ahead.
Disco's on. I'll have to follow Disco on Twitter. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I was a disco mark, man, and I remember when I was a kid. You had like all the Razor Ramones and all this stuff, and I like Disco Inferno, and everybody looked at me like, "Is that with one tier or with two?" And, and I remember I was like, I don't know why. He's got disco fever. He's cool, but I was always a disco mark, man.
I was a huge mark for Lodi, La Parka.
Norman Smiley.
Norman Smiley, yes, the big wiggle.
Yes.
Norman Smiley.
Yeah.
Before we go, I just want to say once again, thanks, Jesse. Thank you so much, for taking the time out by the pool getting hammered. I know you got to work tomorrow, but I just really want to say thanks. You're a solid dude. I'm glad you're so cool and coming on with us. Anytime you want, dude, you have an open invitation.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It's cool. I appreciate y'all having me.
No problem.
Like I said, man, y'all, I've done podcasts before, man, but y'all shit's legit. And it's cool, man. I like coming on. It's always fun. Like I said, I don't have anybody to shoot the shit with wrestling, so it's cool.
That's what we just want to do. We just want to shoot the shit about wrestling. Like, that's
how
it.
I am, man. I'm kind of wind down. Like, even though I'm 25, I'm like, I just want to sit around and talk about it and drink a couple beers. Like, I'm not really interested in getting hit in the head anymore.
Yeah, it's a little easier just to talk about it than getting hit in the head with chairs and fists.
I'm telling you, it is. Yeah. It's a little bit cheaper too. Surgeries aren't expensive. They're expensive.
Yeah, I don't even want to know the bills that have come from all the surgeries you've had over the years. That's insane. That's a whole nother.
No, you don't.
That's a whole nother hour and a half to sit down talking about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, yeah, just thanks. I just gotta say thanks. It was fun. I had a good time. Just nothing but laughs. The hour flew by. So. Once again, you can get on Facebook and follow us there, guys. BS Wrestling Report on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram, BS Wrestling Report. BSW Report on Twitter. And you can also get on YouTube and follow us over there. We're starting to put some interviews and stuff up there. We've done the Diamond Dallas Page one. We're just leaving up over there on YouTube, so you can get over and check out our interview with DDP on YouTube. YouTube.com/BS Wrestling Report. So we're going to be putting some. They're just audio clips right now, or they're full interviews, but they're just audio. We might be working in some video things later and kind of growing from there. So thanks everybody for listening. Jesse, thanks for coming out and hanging with us. And I had a good time. Steve, what do you got for us tonight?
Bye-bye.